name's Veronica Briggs. I am a second year in the MBA program at Haas, pursuing a health management certificate. So my background is in healthcare. My long-term interests are in healthcare, but I sort of got to healthcare through a slightly circuitous route. I grew up on the East Coast in Connecticut, but then came out west to California for undergrad. I went to Pitzer College, which is a really small liberal arts school outside of LA. Most people haven't heard of it. It's only about 900 students, one of the Claremont colleges. I really enjoyed the experience, but it sort of gave me a very atypical, as far as business majors go, a very atypical undergrad experience. I was an anthropology and environmental studies major there. And what happened for me was that while I was in school, I did a semester abroad in Nepal and started to study healthcare delivery issues in rural communities, particularly communities with health disparities. Got really interested in that and recognized that that's where I wanted to go for my career. So after I graduated, I moved up to the Bay Area to San Francisco, and I took a position at Blue Shield of California. Big health insurance carrier that I thought initially was just going to be temporary, thinking, no, that's probably not what I want to do long term. And I ended up staying there for about 6 years. So I really liked it. It sort of became my home, and I was able to progress through a number of different positions within that organization, finally ending as sort of a hybrid between a project manager and product manager. I also went back to Nepal halfway during that time to work as a health education volunteer for about 6 months, which gave me some additional sort of international experience in addition to the domestic experience. But where I realized my passion was long-term was healthcare strategy and reform here in the US in the private sector, because I just feel like there's a lot of opportunity there. But given the lack of formal business training that I had, I recognized that I needed an MBA. So that's what really prompted me to apply to Haas.
Okay. So maybe we can go a little deeper there. Okay. You mentioned that you wanted to fill out your formal business training. Can you talk a little bit more about that, certain specifics of things that you felt like you were missing?
Sure. I had 6 years of work experience by the time I came to Haas, about 5 by the time I applied, so it wasn't like I was lacking professional experience per se, but what I was lacking were some of the hard skills that I think are pretty essential if you're pursuing a management career, such as exposure to finance, accounting, core marketing skills, econ, etc., that I just didn't have in my background, that I felt slightly disadvantaged by in a business career. And I knew that if I wanted to sort of go and take my career to the next level, I needed to not only have those skills and knowledge, but I needed to have the degree sort of signifying that I had those skills and knowledge. And so given the fact that my education in undergrad was so liberal arts focused and so obviously lacking in those hard skills, it was pretty essential for me to get that education.
Great. And so once you made that decision, how did you go about choosing the programs that you actually applied to?
Well, for me it was a pretty tough process because I was looking for 2 primary elements in the schools. I was looking for a program that fit my specific career goals, but also a good fit as far as cultural fit goes and sort of how comfortable I felt in the program specifically. For me, I was a little nervous applying to business schools because I guess I'd heard all the stereotypes about business schools that they were full of like alpha males, it was going to be really competitive, and I was worried that my background and who I was just personality-wise I would feel like sort of an outcast or odd in certain environments. That proved to not be true, and I don't necessarily think that's true anymore. However, when I looked for business schools, I specifically looked for that fit. So I targeted schools that had a strong health management program, and I targeted schools that were small in size, that focused on teamwork, collaboration, and sort of creativity. A school that really embraced a diverse set of backgrounds and interests so that my unique background would be included and sort of, embraced versus sort of, I guess, shunned.
So given that criteria, which schools did you end up applying to?
So I applied to Haas, I applied to Yale, and I applied to Emory. Those schools had really strong affiliations with their schools of public health and either had specific dual degree programs in health management and business management or a focused health management program embedded in their MBA. So it wasn't sort of like the typical top 5 schools for me. I didn't really care about ranking. I really wanted a school that was like the perfect program fit.
Mm-hmm. Great. And so once you decided upon which schools you're going to apply to, can you talk a little bit about the application process?
Yeah.
And at least from the start, like, how did you get started? What were your first steps?
Oh lordy, it was agonizing. it was like yeah, it was a really hard process for me. So basically, I knew that my work schedule and also my sanity required that I start it really, really early. So I began about a year in advance of even the applications themselves by taking the Gmat first, because I didn't want to couple that with the application. A lot of people choose to do that. You know, they take the Gmat at the same time that they're filling out the application, and I have, you know, complete respect for them, but I knew that that wasn't really doable for me. So I started by taking a Gmat Prep course and really studying and just putting all of my free time into Gmat preparation. And then about a year later, when I was ready to pull my application materials together, that's when I started to sort of do all the pre-thinking around, you know, what are my goals through business school? How am I framing my responses? Who am I as a person? And what do I really want to you know, have the admissions committee see when I submit my application?